you know this, that a lot of people that even buy books, they got some skin in the game, but how much do you consume is the completion of that one thing that produces the income, right? It's not just buying the book, it's consuming the book. It's not just buying the course, it's consuming the book, right? So there's three levels. Is we take the content, we consume it, and the third part is we action it. And honestly, the thing that stands out between me and a lot of people say, John, like, what's your secret? It's not a secret. You have to implement everything you learn immediately, because if you don't, you lose momentum. So you do whatever it takes.
Hello and welcome to the Real Success Show. I'm your host, Candace Mama. If you are wondering how you are going to make it from where you are to where you want to be, then today's guest is just for you. John Lee went from working in his parents' takeaway Chinese restaurant all the way to becoming a multi-millionaire by the age of 27. You do not want to miss this incredible conversation with John Lee. But before we jump in, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that more people will find us. Now, without further ado, here's John Lee. Welcome to the Real Success Show.
Denise, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor and pleasure to be here with you and to share some of the insights that can really impact people's lives. I'm really looking forward to this.
John, you know what's one thing about you that I absolutely love? You're very new to the Real Success family in terms of our big stages, but you are so gracious with just your time, with how much you want to do for our community, with how much you want to do for our team. And it is something I have to give you a shout out for. And I actually have to ask you, have you always been this generous?
Well, I come from my number one value is always helping people any way I can. I'll go out of my way to do that. And, I always, my mom taught me this one thing, that if you love what you do, then you'll never have to work a day in your life. And for me, it's all about really supporting, helping people. Because I always think, Candice, that when you have knowledge in your head and you don't pass it to the people, then you're being selfish. And so it's like sometimes, like, even though it's like, I just really want to leave people with more value than I met them with. And so that is really my mission in life now.
Oh, I love that. And you live that mission completely. And John, you have become such an incredibly, not just wealthy, but well-known figure in the space of self-help, personal development, and wealth. And so what I really want to know from you, you started off, working for your parents in their Chinese takeaway store. Did you always know at the back of your mind that you were destined for great things?
I remember one time I was in the back washing dishes, washing woks and things like that. But I knew that there's something, like, it's got to be something bigger in life. The problem with being born into a Chinese family, you have two choices in life. One, you stay and you work in your parents' Chinese takeaway, or number two, you go become a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant. And of course, I wasn't intelligent enough to become a doctor, a lawyer, and accountant. And so I thought, either I stay working in my mom's Chinese takeaway as a dishwasher, or I go out and do something else. I remember one time, Candice, I looked in the mirror and said, there's got to be something bigger than this. I need to break the cycle for my next generation of my family. And so, for me, it's really about, how do we do that? Like, what do we have to do? And there's so many things that we can do. It's just a lot of people are not putting the time and effort to get into it. You don't have to be the most intelligent person in the world, but you have to be the most adaptable person in the world. And that's what creates success.
Oh, I love that. I really do. And you mentioned that moment for you when you were looking in the mirror and you were like, there has to be more to life than this. When that happened, John, so many people have those moments. You chose to act on it. A lot of people never act on that feeling. What gave you that impetus to start putting action into place?
Well, I think it's standard of life, isn't it? I mean, you make your life the way you make it. There's this quote that just kind of changed my life. And it was, the definition of hell on earth is meeting the person that you could have been. And so for me, I'm always thinking about, we need to up our standards, not just in our business and our health and our wealth and our relationships, but what are you actually doing to achieve more in life? What are you actually doing to become the bigger version of you? And I think, for me, I don't think there's a show, I don't know if you've seen a show called Inventing Anna, right? And it's a Netflix show. Yeah, you have. And so there's this line that she says in it, and she says, you're so basic. You're so basic. And it's like, I don't want to be basic. I want to have lived on this planet and to have made an impact. and to do things that would really, I guess, not leave a legacy, but to leave some of me behind for the next generation. I mean, like, I'm talking to you right now on an iPhone, right? So Steve Jobs has literally created this thing that he's left behind. And so, like, I think when we go through life, we have to stand for something. Like, what are you standing up for? You know, you can be basic, or you can be not motivated, and that's why I'm so thrilled to be a part of the Real Success family and the community. Is that I see not just yourself and Lisa and Brian and Sarge. The beauty of the community you've created is this. It's the motivation. It's to get up every day with aspiration to do what you set out to do, even if it seems impossible.
And you've got this incredible saying where you speak about, sometimes things can be simple, but that doesn't make them easy. And so when people realize and they hear you and they hear some of our other speakers, you give us these, very like strategies that are like very implementable, like we can do it if we really want to. But what is that human resistance? What have you found in your career, in your socialization, that makes it so difficult for people to actually follow through on the easy steps that you give them?
You know what it is? It's this whole concept of instant gratification. And Candice, you and I both know this. Like, when we learn a language, you're not going to have to speak the language straight away. And so what happens is people get disheartened. They feel like they've failed. So the way I get around this, you got to find a different way to know how to fail. It's actually, you want to fail. Why? Because failure tells you what you shouldn't do. So, but we've been conditioned in school. This is why I'm so passionate about what you're doing and what we're doing, is to help educate people with the knowledge that they need. And for me, I've always found that there's the failure that stops people, or the fear of failure actually stops them as well. So if we can overcome that, then everything becomes easy, right? I mean, think about it. Why do people never start a business? They think they're going to lose all the money. Not that BS, the BS that I them of why you can't choose them. And you always have a story. You either want results or you want a story. Like, which one do you want? You can keep telling yourself why you're not good enough, why you're not, you're too old for this, or I'm too Asian for this, or I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time. Or you can keep telling yourself those stories, but honestly, I tell you, when people want things, it's so funny because we have people that once we roll into one of the programs that, oh, John, I can't afford it. And then I see them on Facebook the next day, they're going on a cruise. I was like, come on. So it's not about, it's about the priorities that you have in life.
I love that, because it's so true. And John, I mean, you actually established a very different career before you got to this point, before you started sharing your wisdom. I mean, you were a millionaire by the age of 27. How did you make that happen? Like, what were the leaps and bounds you took to get there?
3 things that you need. Number 1, first of all, you have to have the why. What is your why? Like, my why was I didn't want to work in a job for the rest of my life, even though I was in a really good career, animation. I was doing a lot of animation. I was doing a lot of films, but it was like dead end job. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you got to have the knowledge, right? So that's why, I'm so thrilled to be, with the, Real Success community, where you can learn from people and a lot of experts. You got to get a mentor and a coach. You have to know the strategy. You have to know what to do. So for me, it was like, okay, how did I do it? I wasn't clever enough to do web programming. I mean, you don't have the things you have now when you did 15, 20 years ago. Now you can click a button and create a whole site. But before then, I wasn't that good at it. So I thought, what's easy? And what was really easy is, like, you buy something. And this is when I went about assets, Candice. Assets are things that increase in value. So I thought to myself, okay, why don't I just buy more property? Right? So I'll buy a property and I'll just leave it. And I don't have to do anything. I don't have to be clever. I just need to get the property and that's it. And so for me, I got a mentor. His name was Ying Tan, and I didn't even have the money. This guy charged £10,000 for 2 days of his time. I'm like, okay, where am I going to get money from? So I sold my car and I paid him £10,000. And he taught me this one thing that I'll never forget. There's never a lack of money. There's only a lack of creativity, right? There's never about the resources. It's about how resourceful you are. And so he said, there's plenty of money out there. It's just that it's not coming to you. It's not flowing to you. So where energy goes, money flows. right? And I learned this concept and I thought, oh my God. And he taught me, he said to me, John, you're thinking about the wrong thing. Because when you find the deal, the money will find you. And I thought, I didn't understand what that meant. And he said to me, when you find the deal, the money will find you. And so then I didn't have to worry about the money anymore. I just found the deals. And I found this first property in a place called Aldershot, and it was on the market for 185,000. And I bought the property for £85,000. Did I have 85? Of course I didn't. But I found investors to give me the money to buy it. So then I resold it. And that's how I got my 100 grand profit, to start my career. So it's about being creative. This is what I mean about BS. About a lot of people have their own BS. Do you know how much money is floating around? Even in 2020, and you and I and Sarge and Brian, we talked about this. Like, there's so many people, like, they made so much money during the pandemic. It was insane, because when recessions happen, you have to go to the points where that's where most millionaires are made. You got to look for the opportunity. In the Chinese culture, we have this word called Wei Ji, and it's made up of two characters. And when you have those two characters, it spells the word crisis, right? Together. But if you split the characters, one means danger, the other one means opportunity. So that means in every crisis, there's an opportunity, but you have to be able to see the opportunity. Like when .club domains came out, I own probably 350 of the top .club domain names in the world. For example, John.club, Claire.club. I even have Candice.club, Emily.club, Jason.club, Daniel.club, Andy.club. I own, like, do you know how much a one word domain name's worth? It's like I bought them for like $1,000. They're worth about 10,000 now. So you got to get the opportunity in before, but to do that, you need knowledge, because I missed out the first time on .coms, right? I wasn't going to miss out again. Same with people in Bitcoin right now. All those people that invested in Bitcoin, 5 or 10 years ago, they took that risk. So you've got to have the knowledge. You must always learn. LEARN. Take off the L, it spells earn. You must learn before you earn.
Oh, John, I love all this wisdom you are dropping, because it is priceless. It really is. And you mentioned something in your story, and it was about your mentor, and you selling your car in order to pay your mentor. And a lot of people have so much resistance or negative belief systems around having to invest in wisdom, having to invest in another human being to teach them what they know. And so what do you say to people who are like, John, you're already so rich, like you've already got everything, why should I pay you when you should just do this for me, and then I'll repay you once I apply all the knowledge you teach me?
Well, it's a simple human behavior of look, I'll give you a good example of this. New Year's, what do people do? They're setting New Year's resolution. Do you know, Kenny's, by February, the second week of February, 80% of people have basically given up on their New Year's resolutions. So this is saying, again, my mentor taught me this, because I asked him the same thing. I said, look, I don't have £10,000 to pay you. And he said, we got to find a way. Do you know, that was the biggest lesson for me, because it taught me to raise finance. It taught me to be resourceful, right? It taught me the lesson of delayed gratification. So I don't even seen the film Karate Kid, like Mr. Miyagi. He teaches Danielson wax on, wax off, and Danielson doesn't know what he's doing it. But now I realize that was the biggest, because if he didn't give me that for free, I wouldn't have valued it. I mean, how many times do people give you for free? How many times do people give you a book, right? And then you just put it on your shelf, and the self-development suddenly becomes shelf development, right? So there's one concept, and I'll never ever forget this. Another lesson my mentor taught me is have skin in the game. Have skin in the game. For example, people come to me and say, because I invest in a lot of, tech companies, private equity startups. I do like a little bit of, VC/private equity privately. And people always come to say, John, I've got this great idea. They're so passionate about it. But, can you put £500,000 or £1 million into this deal? I'm like, yeah, sure. How much are you putting in? Nothing. So why do you expect me to put something in it? You see what I mean? So when you have skin in the game, you have sweat equity, and you have something to lose. And every single time, even so a friend of mine, his name is Jay Shetty. a good friend of mine, and all my friends, I mean, they all offer courses, trainings, and things like that. I'll buy them. Like, but if I go to my friend Jay and say, hey, Jay, can you give me this for free? He'd probably say yes. But I purchased the course because I know that if I purchase it, I've got some skin in the game. I'm more likely to use it. And it's the consumption. This is now, in living in today's world, it's all about having awareness and attention. Awareness is I see it. Attention is the consumption. And the consumption, this is why when people say to me, oh, John, I signed up for lots of courses. Yeah, but how many have you completed? Right? And do you know, probably, and you know this, that a lot of people that even buy books, they got some skin in the game, but how much do you consume? Is the completion of that one thing that produces the income, right? It's not just buying the book, it's consuming the book. It's not just buying the course, it's consuming the book, right? So there's three levels. Is we take the content, we consume it, and the third part is we action it. And honestly, the thing that stands out between me and a lot of people say, John, like, what's your secret? It's not a secret. You have to implement everything you learn immediately. Because if you don't, you lose momentum. So you do whatever it takes.
Man, that is so, so, so true. And I've been a victim to that too, where I would buy like tons of material, right?
I have. And by the way, I'm saying this is not just for the people. I'm saying this to me as well, which is why I find that the more skin you have in the game, the more likely you are to take more action.
Oh, so true. I agree. And that's why sometimes, like with yoga, for example, I don't love yoga. I'm much more of a physical person. So I decided I was going to buy a 3-month membership for yoga. And it was a pretty big outlay. And I was just like, I was in that yoga studio every day. I'm like, I am getting my money back. Okay. So that is 100% true. The human psychology, you just can't get around it. And, John, you mentioned, the friends that you have in this industry. And a big thing we hear all the time is that you become like the people you hang around. So how has your community and the people around you influenced you in your path to success?
You know what I love about this, and why people say, John, like, why do you still even do these keynote speeches and talks? Well, why does Richard Branson do keynotes? Why does Elon Musk do keynotes? It's because it creates action, creates results. I mean, you hang around great people, and I can't wait to meet you live in person, by the way. And I know Brian's coming here to London. I know Sarge's going to be here as well. And I just can't wait to meet people, because there's something about human energy that produces magic. Like, I'm telling you, like when I was in Dubai, I did about probably 6 months of networking in 2 weeks. And the energy, the ideas, I mean, already that has been implemented, have made me a lot of money, right? Just by meeting one person, one contact, like one person that gives me one private equity deal, that a company that's about to go public, bang. That's like, 10, 15, 20 times return by doing that one thing. So that's why for my community, I mean, I have a community called JL.club, and I created that because I wanted to hang around with like-minded individuals who are like, who think in a different way. And, Steve Jobs calls them the crazy ones. That's what I want. I want to meet the crazy ones. I want to meet the ones that have so ridiculous, lavish ideas that people think that's never going to work. Well, you never know. It's interesting because just around the corner is the big WeWork. It's the central location for WeWork here in central London, and because we're in zone 1 right now. And that, Adam Newman, who had the idea for creating all these huge buildings of co-working space, it's incredible. He had a $47 billion valuation when it went public. Okay, it's a little bit lower now, but it just shows you somebody who has a company that can raise billions of dollars with one crazy idea. But that's what I want. Sometimes you never know the person you're going to meet is your next unicorn or is your next decacorn, right? So I met a lady and she gave me all these amazing deals, and a lot of those are now turning into decacorns. So I just want people to understand that your network is your net worth, which is why I love doing these interviews, because someone will watch this and they'll send me a message. Oh my God, John, I've got a pre-IPO coming up. Right, let's do a deal. Or John, I'm in London. Do you want to meet? Or hey, you spoke at this event. Could you come speak at our event? So it really is all about energy, attraction. It's about putting yourself out there so people know who you are, and creating a community where, and that is what Web 3.0 is now. It's all about community. Look at what you've created. It's all about community. And so I just think it's incredible to to be around people. I mean, yes, we can do Zoom, yes, we can do online stuff, but that's why every year I'm now I always have a retreat in Bali, so I get to meet people in person, and that's honestly where all the deals happen. That for me is kind of like the I say the Coachella of business and investment is what I want to. That's one of my visions, that where everyone gets together and it's billions. That's one of my dreams.
I love that, the Coachella of business. That is incredible. John, there was a statement that Donald Trump once made, and someone said, and this is what I'm going to say to you, John Lee, you are already so wealthy. Why do you want to keep making more money? And I will tell you what Donald Trump said, but I want to know what your answer is. Why do you want to keep accumulating more assets, more businesses, more money?
Well, first of all, because I can. Right? What you can do, what you will do are, worlds apart, right? If you've got the knowledge to do things now, why do I keep wanting to do it? Because it's a scorecard, isn't it? I mean, money's not everything, right? It really isn't. I mean, there's only so many zeros you can be back at, but it's a scorecard to let you know how well you're doing. Like if this year you're making this much, this year you're making this much, have you done better or worse, right? So if you're making less, you've done worse, or you're not working as efficiently. And here's the thing. Each part requires a breakthrough, right? To go from 100 to a million, million to 10 million, 10 million to 100 million, 100 million to a billion, and billion to a trillion requires a different version of you, right? So part of why I keep wanting to make more money is I have to force to grow myself. That's number one. Number two is impact. The more money you have, I do a lot of philanthropy work. I have a lot of charities that I've supported. I've built a lot of schools, a place, called in a place called Kakamega in Kenya. Like, do you know how good it feels to give money away? That's much more better than actually making money itself. So for me, it's all about those two things. Like, I want to grow myself, become a bigger version of me. It's forced to grow, because some people, they make a 100 grand, half million, and they're comfortable, and that's it. They just stop. Right? Look at Elon Musk. Elon Musk sold PayPal for 150 million, something crazy like that, and then he just invested it all and had to sleep on his friend's couch. Right now, he's one of the wealthiest people in the world. You've got to take the risks, and it becomes a bigger version of you. Money is just it's a game. It's a game. And that's how I see it. And that's how I want other people to see it. Don't think of money, oh, you need this money, this and that. Think of it like you play a game. Like when I was working in the game industry, it's all how do you get the highest score, right? It forces you to play better strategically. And sometimes you get beaten by your opponents. And so for me, I really like to be able to do that. So, yeah.
Oh, I love your answer. And I think it's definitely much better than Donald Trump's answer. But he said, money's just the way of keeping score. That's what he said. John, to have that kind of high performing mindset, in order to do what you do, to have the energy to do it, it takes a lot. It does. And I think sometimes people think the higher you go, the less work it is. But the truth is, the higher you go, the more work it is, the more people you meet. So what are the habits that keep you centered? What are some things in your life that make you feel like, whew, I can breathe?
Well, first of all, I'm a father, so I have a daughter, so she definitely keeps me sane. It keeps me grounded. But it's just to support like my family. Everything that I'm doing right now is centered around them. That's why we do what we do. Right? It's for our families, to get for our family. Like, I just think that to stay centered, also things like exercising. I mean, I see you're in amazing shape. You definitely work out. You definitely watch what you eat. I can tell when you speak to people and you just look at them, right? You like you got to and health is also a big thing. So for many years, I've been taught this over and over and over again. And my good friend Robin Sharma once said to me, he's like, if you don't make time for exercise, you'll eventually make time for illness. And that really stuck with me. I'm like, wow. So every day, I don't go to the gym every single day, but I make it a point to exercise every day, whether I go for a walk or I go for a run or I do some meditation or I'm probably not as flexible as you, but I try and do as much yoga as I can, because that really just centers, the whole thought process and the focus. And so, and honestly, for me, the thing that really gets me off every single day is self-development. I listen to books, audiobooks, videos, Audible. I've got so many audiobooks on there when I'm traveling or in the car, I'm listening, because that grows you. If you just grow yourself 1% every single day, By the end of the year, you got 365% growth. Imagine that compounded over 10, 20, 30, 50, 60 years. And you know, and I'm going to say this, one of the reasons why most people, when they sign up for courses and they take courses, they fail is because they haven't adopted the money mindset. And it takes about 5 years to adopt it. Well, it's taken me, at least everyone I speak to, it's taken a amount of time to understand. So when I make an investment now, I'm not, well, is this a good or bad investment? I already know if it's going to be good or not, right? And I'm not taking a risk, I'm taking a calculated risk. And that's what's important to understand.
Oh, I love what you said, especially at the end there. And that is, you know, the fact that, and you've emphasized this throughout the interview, which is you are a continuous learner. You're not just a teacher, but you continue to empower yourself and you continue to learn. And I absolutely love that. And I want to know, if the world had to end tomorrow and there were only 3 books or 3 pieces of literature or any 3 lessons that could be saved, which books would you save?
Okay, the first book is definitely Steve Jobs' autobiography, because it talks about the willingness to do whatever it takes. I mean, I think maybe he took it a little bit far. That's why he's not here now. So there is an element of that. The second one is a book called Predictably Irrational, because it talks about the human psychology of how business is created, how people do things and how people react to things, and the human psychology, like why do kamikaze pilots wear helmets, you know, like things like that. I mean, he talks about this in the book, and I was like, that's an interesting point. Why do people go to McDonald's and they order a Big Mac, fries, chicken nuggets, a burger, and a Diet Coke when he's getting normal Coke? So it's the psychology. So I understood that when we become the best version of us, we have to understand who we are. So that's the second thing. And the third book I would highly recommend is also Elon Musk's autobiographies. I love reading autobiographies. It gives you so much insight of their psyche, their intellect, their reasoning behind. But because people like entrepreneurs like you and I, these people think we're crazy. You're like, why are you working so much? Why? What? I work more. And here's the ironic thing about this: working in a job, I work more now, probably twice as much now than I would ever do my job. Why? Because I want to, not because I have to. This is the ironic thing about when you become financially free. It's like, okay, well, what do you do? Do you sit there and watch Netflix and get fat? Or do you go out and do something meaningful? Do something that's going to, like, what's your mission? What's your purpose in life? And I think that for me, like when you read those books, you really start to understand why this person is a billionaire, right? Not because they want to get money, but money is, if you put the money aside, like the things that I do now, I would still do if it was for free. That's when you've truly found your passion.
Oh, I love those 3. And I haven't read Predictably Unpredictable. So I will definitely make sure it's on my reading list. And I find that what you were speaking about in that context, especially when it comes to business, I have a huge fascination with human psychology, right? It's why humans do what they do, because all of us think we're so individualistic, right? We're like, I make my own decisions, I live my own life. And then you look through, and for me, there's a podcast, I don't know if you've heard it, it's called The Real Dictators. And basically it highlights all the dictators in history and how they actually managed to convince these massive groups of people to be able to follow them, right? And you realize that a lot of it is people really do want to be led. If people would rather have John Lee come to their house in person, give them a strategy on how they're going to change their life, a 25-step process, give them the money, give them everything. And they're like, thank you, John, you saved me. So it's really interesting how our psychology is formed. And John, as a father, you mentioned you're a father, you know, what are some of the things that you want to teach your daughter as she comes into the world and, you know, and she's growing and forming a personality and, you know, her own habits and decisions? What are some things you're hoping that she will keep from her childhood and what you've taught her?
Well, definitely the concept of hard work. Like, it's so funny. Like, my daughter's like, "What, Daddy, why do you work so much? Why do you work so much?" And, you know, now she's used to all the luxuries in life. You know, oh, Daddy, you know, when we go to the plane, can we have the big seats? And like, so I really want her to understand the value of hard work. I mean, that's honestly what my parents told me, because they had a Chinese takeaway, and that's one of the lessons I learned from them, is that you like, they do whatever it takes. I didn't see my parents till the age of like 11 years old, because they were always working in a Chinese takeaway, and so I want my daughter to understand, you don't have to be the best at what you do, as long as you become your best at what you do. And when you become your best at what you do, then you don't really focus on anybody else. You focus, okay, am I a little bit better than what I was yesterday? Was a little bit better than what I was a week ago, a year ago, 5 years ago? And I just want her to I want to pass on that trait to her of always learning. Like, because the moment you think you know everything, you know nothing. And it's happened to me in my business. Like, I don't need to go on that course. I already made $1 million. What happens next year? I start making less. I'm like, huh. And then I did the calculation. The calculation is, the more I put into here, the more income I make. The more I put into here, the more freedom I have. The more I put into here, the more lifestyle you create. And so it's a direct parallel. It's like the guy who plays golf, or the girl who plays golf, because my wife plays golf now. It's like the person who plays golf, and then they have nothing to do, so they play golf, and then their business starts getting really busy, and then so they stop playing golf and they start playing Noah's in the business right now, right? And then suddenly the business stops, it's getting business, and he goes back to, okay, there's nothing to do, and they start playing golf. He hasn't realized that the business is coming from the golf. You see what I mean? So this is the direct parallel. There's this duality. Like, what has to happen in order for you to achieve more? And once people figure that out, you just keep doing more of it and doubling down on it.
Oh, that's fantastic advice and a great analogy. And you've got this
Well, actually, that's not my billionaire friend. I'm not going to take credit for that. My billionaire friend taught me that. So wait.
I love that. And I love that you attribute your success to so many people. It's such a beautiful thing to observe and to hear. And John, in today's society, I think since I was young, I'm still hearing the same narrative, which is people are constantly speaking about the term work-life balance, right? You need to have a good work-life balance. You need to have a work-life balance. What does work-life balance mean to you? And do you think it's something that can be achieved?
You know what? I'm going to say this, and people are going to hit me for saying this. I think it's nonsense. I really think it's nonsense. I really there's no such thing as work-life balance, because once you start doing more work, you start having more time. When you have more time, you start doing more work. Like, my parents are retired, right? And they're working more than I said, why did you retire? So that's my personal opinion. Maybe people agree with that or disagree with that. But I'm going to give you another angle on this. And again, this was taught to me by one of my mentors, Ken. And he said, because I said the same thing to him, and he said, nonsense. So, and when he explained to me, it's like, I think you're right. So there's never ever work-life balance. There's only ever work-life integration. Work-life integration. Our work becomes our life life becomes our work. Right? And I know it's quite hard to digest this. And when you're an entrepreneur, you kind of get it. Like, right now I'm here in central London, and, we're doing this. This is part of life. This is part of who I am. And when your mission is set, nothing else matters. When you're like, what are you doing today that's getting you closer to your goal? That's the only question you ask, right? Now, if your goal is to sit on the beach every day and not do any work, then so be it. But that's when we look at lifestyle businesses and empires. Do you want to just create a lifestyle and just do what you want to do, or do you want to create something that's going to last forever, that's going to be here forever? And I think when you think with that mindset, that work-life integration, it become like, for example, my calendar now, I treat my date nights like a meeting. It has to go in the calendar, otherwise it doesn't get done. So that's part of work-life integration. If I'm flying to South Africa or Dubai, I'm not just going to fly there and do a keynote, right? So someone offered me 85,000 to do a keynote speech in Dubai, but I'd already spent 2 weeks in Dubai and come back. I'm not going to fly back out there again. If that would have been done whilst I'm out there, work-life integration, I would have got a suite, stayed there for a couple of weeks, spend a week there on a holiday, do a keynote, and then another week you spend with the family. That's work-life integration, right? If I'm going to go to a party, like a lot of my friends now, we go to parties, like all we ever talk about is life and business mixed together. There's always stories that come out. How did you start? How did you do it? Oh, this customer, this customer, that. This how it changed my life, and this is my health problem, this, that. And so it becomes an integration of your life and who you are. And I think that's how things are working now. We come back to community. You see? I mean, you probably, I don't know if this sounds bad, but when I go home at Christmas and I'm spending time with people I used to spend time like 10 years ago and they haven't grown, they're still where they are. I feel like a part of me is like a part of me feels really uncomfortable for being there. It's like, hold on a second, why am I even here? I don't feel growth. I don't feel inspired. I want to be around environments of communities and life of inspiration. That's why I really don't believe that work-life balance is, I mean, it used to be a thing, but now it's completely different. I mean, look at when we started working from home, right? When people got locked, the first lockdown that happened, we go to work 9 to 5 and at home. Now people are just, because now they know there's opportunities. We don't have a local business, we have global businesses now. The world is open 24 hours a day. So you need to be in it to be able to win it. And so for me, it's about the work-life integration. Of course, I have my family time. Of course, I have holidays. Of course, I spend time with my family. That's why I do it. But we integrate that into the life. And that's how I live now.
Oh, there's actually something so liberating about that. And hearing it, because work-life integration is so much more doable than work-life balance, I believe, because you always feel guilty when you're looking for balance. Whatever you feel is out of balance, you'll always feel guilty about. So you'll be at work feeling guilty about family. You'll be with family feeling guilty you're not working, because you always feel, I'm not juggling correctly. You know? So
and that's a good thing as well. Like people work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, look forward to the weekends. I look forward to Mondays. You know, I think Monday is great. It's the start of the week, new start, new week, and like new targets to hit. You know, why do you have to wait till summer holiday comes before you can travel? You know, why? You know, why only celebrate your birthday on your birthday when you can pick any day in the year and celebrate that? You know, it just doesn't make sense. Like, honestly, and I'll tell you this, and this is maybe a little bit embarrassing, but I still have not been on my honeymoon yet since being married. This is almost a decade ago. Still not been on my honeymoon. Do you know why? Because every day is a honeymoon for us. Everywhere we travel is a beautiful resort, 5-star hostels, first-class flights. Every location feels like a honeymoon location. You see what I mean? Work-life integration. And do you know what's even beautiful about this? And I used to have mixed thoughts about this. I had a rule of never doing business with friends, never doing business with family, because I had some bad experiences with that. But now, because of work-life integration, like all my friends, like I'll fly to Dubai, I'll be hanging out with them, going bowling. We'll be like doing deals in bowling or doing deals whilst we're doing golfing, or we'll be singing karaoke. Like it is work-life like integration. That really is a true sense of work-life integration. I don't feel like I'm working, but we're working and deals are being done. That's how life should be created, instead of you saying, okay, this part's for work, this part's for life, and you feel stressed. It's like, why can't I go on a holiday to Australia, do a keynote, do a few deals, and and go to the Gold Coast at the same time? You see, This is my thought process. People may not agree with this, but you know, this is just in 15 years of being in business. This is what I've started to see more of.
No, I love it. I think so many people are actually going to feel so free. And I think I speak on behalf of a lot of women where there's so much guilt, you know, like you're supposed to be this, you're supposed to fill this block. And if you're an ambitious woman, it's like you'll never get it right. Like you'll never have all the balls juggling in the air. And when you speak about work-life integration, I feel personally liberated. I'm like, you know, so it's great. Thank you for sharing that. It's such an inspiring nugget. And, you know, John, I know that you're a huge Marvels fan. I want to speak a little bit about that.
Love it.
When did your love start? And tell us a little bit about, like, you know, your collection of Marvel goodies that people would dream about.
Well, it's a shame I'm not in my studio right now, because you'll see all the Marvel props. I've got a life-sized Thanos, a Hulk gauntlet. It's film size, like 1-to-1 scale. You know, it's so funny because I was in London and I saw it in the shop, I said, oh my God. And I said, I want to buy this. I said, sorry, you can't buy it. I said, but it's in your window. I'm sorry, it's for display purposes only. I said, but come on. And there's always a price, right? So I said, okay, how much? He said, what do you mean how much? I said, how much can I buy it for? And so he told me, and it was a sizable amount. I said, okay, I'm taking it. So he takes it out and he puts it in this huge box. And I'm lugging around London, holding this box all around like central London. People must have thought I was crazy. But, like for me, I'm always, my love, I mean, my background, I used to be an animator. I worked in the film industry. And so, I always love special effects, and all my friends actually are working on the Marvel movies. So they're actually either in the special effects, or actually I've got a lot of other friends who would be actors in the Marvel movies as well, who are good friends of mine. And so for me, do you know what I love about it? I love superhero movies so much is because it makes the impossible possible. It's the story of the underdog, isn't it? It's like, when I don't know if anyone's seen the Avengers Infinity War, when they all get snapped away and then suddenly Thanos is the bully, and then they prevail in Avengers Endgame. And I love seeing the story arcs of the characters and how they change, how they evolve, how they grow. That's why I'm such a huge fan of not only that, but when I was a kid, I always watched a lot of the Spider-Man movies, So yeah, I'm a huge geek at heart, really. I am. I've got a whole arcade at home with 3,500 of the all classical, arcade games. So I'm a bit of a gamer.
I love it. It sounds like heaven on earth to me, to be honest. We spoke a little bit about your animation, and I want to know what in your animation career are you still implementing throughout your businesses or throughout your life today?
Story. It's the power of story. It's the power of, like, if you ever watched the Pixar movie, right? You'll see it's all about story. How do you create the story? How do you create it so you have growth? You have you become a better version of you. So for me, it's all the things that happen with just kind of like for me, it's all about the technical stuff as well. Like I never thought like, okay, the videos I learned back then would be so used to now. Like all the technical things, the editing. I used to use a software called Adobe Premiere, right? And I'm like, well, I'm still using it till today. So, sometimes when we go to school, we think the things that we learn is not useful, but it comes full circle of how we actually using it right now. So, yeah, that was a big one for me, huge one.
Yeah, no, I love it because I always think it's beautiful how life is like what Steve Jobs said, right? You can't connect the dots looking forward, but you can connect them looking back. And his typography, how that ended up with iPhone. And so it's all these little things that you think in the time are useless, but then you end up implementing them in your new life or your new career. And I think it's magic, so much magic there. And, you covered the power of story, and I am obsessed with story. I think it's one of the most, powerful ways to change another human being is through them hearing your story. And you get to share pieces of your story, which is the John Lee life story, to millions of people. How does it feel to have millions of people's eyes on you almost all the time?
It's funny because I'll walk around London. I'll get stopped quite regularly for a picture, or someone will stop me on the train or the plane and say, you know what, John, I just want to say thank you. You changed my life. And these are people. I had a guy follow me on the train, and he followed me to first class cabin. And he was like, "Oh, are you John Lee?" I said, "Oh, I am." I said, "I just want to say thank you because of you. I've managed to get the property ladder now. I've managed to start my own business." And it's just, or when you're in a restaurant and you go to pay for the bill and say, "Oh, your bill's already been paid for." I said, "By who?" And the person over there, they'll just wave and they'll say, "Oh, thank you for the last seminar that you ran." It's like things like that just makes a massive difference. Or someone will buy you a coffee, or like I went to a coffee shop. I like to drink coffee, right? And the guy there, he says, "Oh, John, it's on the house." I said, "What?" "Oh, yeah, I listen to your podcast. I watch your videos on YouTube, and almost every time I go there, it's always on the house." I'm like, "Come on, you got to let me pay for this stuff." So I was like, you know what? Come to my next training. So like things like that, it's so magical, Kenny. It really is. Like we don't do this only for the money. I mean, money is important, but what's more important is we do this for the impact. And that for me is why I carry on doing what I do.
Oh man, like that story just gave me chills. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful that you can be a catalyst to people's change. And, people are watching you all the time. And for every one person following you on a train, buying you a coffee, buying you a meal, there are so many others that are feeling the same way. So it's so powerful, John, and I love it. Yeah. So, John, we've spoken about a couple of different things, but I'm really curious to know, what is real success to you?
Real success to me is living life on your own terms, to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it, without anyone pointing the finger at you and say, you have to do this, this, and this, and this. And real success, Candice, is choice.
Real success is choice. I love that. And our final question, John Lee, is what is something about you that we will not find on Google?
Oof. What's the one thing that we not find on Google? That's a hard one, because it's so funny, because before, like, I tried so hard to get onto Google, because the word John Lee, there's like 2.8 billion search results for the word John Lee. Now when you type my name in, I'm on like number one. So it's like almost everything out there, people kind of know who I am, how much I'm worth. They know, they literally know everything, the name of my daughter, my wife, everything. So I guess one thing they would probably not Google is that I am a Street Fighter 2 champion, 1998. So anyone who plays Street Fighter, give me a call and I'll whip your ass on Street Fighter. Street Fighter champion.
Oh, wow. I love that.
Old school. I'm old school.
A champion. You're not just Street Fighter fighter, you are a Street Fighter champion. Okay. Oh, John Lee, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. I tell you, I used to play that game every day. Thank you for your time, and what an amazing conversation. Like, seriously, one of the best interviews I've had for a long time. So thank you so much for those amazing questions, and for the work that you're doing, Candice, making an impact, the stuff you're doing with Real Success, the thousands of millions that you guys are all changing as well, and just giving people the opportunity just makes me so happy. So thank you.
Thank you, John. There was so much inspiration in that one conversation. I'm so curious to know what stood out for you. As always, it has been my greatest privilege and pleasure to walk with you along this journey today, and I look forward to doing it again next week.